So this is the puzzle that actually breaks Stockfish. Stockfish currently evaluates his position at a +1, but this is actually completely winning if you find the correct sequence of moves. So here, the ultimate goal is to eventually infiltrate the other side of the board and capture one of these pawns, creating a pass pawn. But the problem is, how do we get there? So we might look at two different methods right off the bat. Sacrificing the knight here on g5, creating a passer for us, but the problem is black's king runs over in time. And we might also think we can relocate our knight around this way to a4, attacking the c5 pawn, but the thing is black can always shuffle back and forth between c6 and d6. So this doesn't really do us any good if we don't have a longer term plan. We want our knight on h4. The reason we want our knight on h4 is because that way we can infiltrate on f5, attack this pawn, and the only way for black to defend this pawn is his king is on h7. So if our knight is on f5, we force black's king to walk over to h7 to defend this pawn. Now we have sufficient time to run over to the other side of the board and capture the c5 pawn, and then we can create a pass pawn and eventually promote and win the game. And also just to note, if black ever captures on h4, we have king takes, king f6. Now we have g5 check. After pawn takes king g4, we now force black into a zugzwang. Black has no pawn moves. He must move the king away from this pawn. We capture the pawn, and now we simply have this pawn on h5 as a distraction. We run over, capture all these other pawns, and we have 1,000 queens. So that's the ultimate idea. We want our knight on h4, but considering the position here, there's no way to get the knight to h4 simply by moving it in its own territory. We can't actually get it to h4. The only route to get our knight to h4 is through g2, e1, c2, a3. So we need to get our knight to a3 in some sort of way. But the problem is how? We can never actually get it to a3 by just doing this. We can't shuffle back and forth to get a3 in our own boundaries. We must think outside the box. So we have to do this really crazy sequence of moves. So after knight to f2, we have king d6, knight d1, king c6, knight b2, king d6, knight a4, king c6. See, if we don't do anything here, if we keep shuffling the knight, it's a draw, obviously. So now we have to bring our king into the game. So after a few more moves, we bring our king to the other side of the board. And then finally, after king c6, we play king a2. And after king d6, we have knight to b6. So now black must play, if he goes to c6, obviously this is completely losing because I have knight to d5, and I'll eventually play this and win the pawn on the side. Even this works as well, and black is not fast enough to get to the other side of the board. So black has to play the king to e6 here. Stockfish still evaluates his position at a 0.9 because it literally doesn't understand how to win this game. But now we actually have a powerful sequence of moves that actually completely outsmart Stockfish. We have knight to d5. If we go back to king to d6, we have knight to f6, and knight g8 wins this. So the best move here is king to f7. But now we have knight to c7. We're getting our way back to a3 like we mentioned earlier. This way we can go to c2, e1, g2, and then back to h4. That's the whole idea of this entire maneuver. So after king to e7, we go knight to b5. King e6, we have knight to a3. A reminder, if he takes on a3, he's completely losing because after this, we have a pass pawn here that's kind of like a distraction. We force black to go backwards, and we eventually walk our king and capture the other pawns. So after we get our knight to a3, Stockfish still think this is a complete draw. It has not even seen a win here. So after king to d6, we bring our knight to c2, king to e6, knight to e1, king to f6, knight to g2. Now we're preparing h4. We can't go h4 just yet. We have to bring our king all the way back. So after king e6, king b2, king d6, king c2, I'm just going to keep shuffling the king. Now Stockfish registers it and sees that this is completely winning for white. So I'm going to bring the king all the way over to h3. Now we have our desired position. So after king to e6, we have knight here to h4. Now, say black plays king f6, we go knight f4, and now he's no way to protect this pawn. We're going to win the game. We're going to go this side to capture all the pawns. So the only logical move here for black is to capture the knight. So after king takes h4, we have king f6, g5, king g7. Doesn't matter if he goes here, 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 here. We infiltrate, win the game. If he takes here, we force a zugzwang, king g7, king to g5, we also win the game. So there you go. That's the puzzle that actually completely breaks Stockfish. It's unbelievable. So yeah, if you enjoyed that, make sure to drop a like, hit that subscribe button for more content like this. Appreciate it, guys. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.